When Claire Samson first started posting videos on TikTok in 2019, she was just another teenager lip-syncing to pop songs in her bedroom in Ohio. Within a year, her quick edits, sharp humor, and effortless charm brought her over 3 million followers. She was the girl next door with a bite, fans said, sarcastic, unfiltered, and dangerously relatable. Brands reached out. She moved to Los Angeles, signing with a small influencer agency. By 2021, she was driving a Mercedes and living in a house with other creators. But what her audience didn't know was that Claire's life offline was crumbling under the weight of addiction, jealousy, and a desperate need to stay relevant in an industry that forgets you the moment your views drop. The first signs of trouble appeared in her live streams. She'd go live at 3 a.m., slurring her words, crying, and accusing her ex of betrayal. Her fans called it raw, but behind the comments and hearts were growing concerns. When her ex-boyfriend Tyler, also a TikToker, began leaking their private messages, it ignited an online war that attracted thousands of viewers each night. The drama boosted her engagement, but the chaos consumed her. That summer, she was evicted from her rental house after a fight that ended with police being called. The report listed property damage, substance abuse, and disorderly conduct. Still, she managed to frame it as just another creator scandal on social media. In late 2022, things took a darker turn. Claire started selling fan merch, promising limited edition hoodies for $60 each. Orders poured in, but weeks went by without deliveries. Fans began posting videos exposing her. Some accused her of scamming them, while others defended her, claiming she was overwhelmed. When a class action complaint was filed by over 400 fans across several states, she panicked. Investigators found that she had collected over $120,000 through a personal PayPal account and used most of it to fund her gambling addiction and a series of lavish trips. The evidence was overwhelming: screenshots, emails, and PayPal records. The arrest came quietly. Federal agents showed up at her Los Angeles apartment on a Tuesday morning. She was live on TikTok when it happened, her phone propped on a ring light, mid-rant about cancel culture. The camera caught the moment a voice shouted, "Police!" and her face froze. The live stream ended there, but within hours, clips spread across social media. Her mugshot, makeup smeared, eyes hollow, became a viral meme. The charges: wire fraud, mail fraud, and theft by deception. The trial that followed lasted 4 months. Prosecutors argued she exploited her fame to scam vulnerable young fans who trusted her. Her defense team painted her as a lost young woman consumed by internet fame. In the courtroom, her parents sat in silence as fans gathered outside with signs that read, "Free Claire." But the evidence spoke louder than sympathy. She was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison and ordered to repay $80,000 in restitution. She cried as the judge read the sentence, whispering, "It was just merch. I didn't mean to hurt anyone." Her TikTok account was deleted, but hundreds of compilation videos kept circulating. The rise and fall of Claire Samson. In prison, reports say she works in the laundry unit and has started a support group for women struggling with online addiction. When asked in an interview what she learned, she said only one thing: "Fame is a drug. Mine just came with handcuffs." When Aaron Delgado first appeared on TikTok, it was with harmless skits, exaggerated impressions of teachers, quirky dances in parking lots, and the kind of unfiltered confidence that made people stop scrolling. He called himself AD the Realist, and by early 2020, he had gone from filming on his cracked phone in Houston to being invited to brand collaborations in Los Angeles. What no one realized then was that Aaron's charisma, that intense stare, that streetwise humor, wasn't just an act. It was the mask of someone who had spent years surviving on the edges of legality. He grew up in the Fifth Ward, a neighborhood that never forgot how hard it was to be ignored by the rest of the city. His mother worked 2 jobs. His father was in and out of prison. Aaron was arrested for the first time at 16 for car theft but got probation. When TikTok exploded, he saw a different path, one that didn't involve crime but still promised the same adrenaline rush. Within months, his hood logic sketches became viral. He was funny, self-aware, and dangerously charming. His tagline, "Stay real or stay away," became a mantra for millions. But fame didn't change his habits. It only gave him more money to fuel them. He started flashing stacks of cash on camera, bragging about designer clothes and luxury cars. Fans thought it was satire. It wasn't. Investigators would later uncover that much of that money came from a series of coordinated credit card scams that began long before he was famous. He and a small circle of friends had been running stolen card operations, purchasing electronics and reselling them through online marketplaces. As Aaron's fame grew, his crimes escalated. He started using his popularity to lure fans into business opportunities, promising quick returns through affiliate dropshipping that didn't exist. In March 2021, one of his own collaborators leaked screenshots of their group chats to authorities. That same month, 2 victims from Florida came forward claiming they'd been scammed out of thousands by Aaron's mentorship program. The FBI's cybercrime division began tracking payments linked to his name. By summer, undercover agents had joined one of his Telegram groups where he was reportedly teaching followers how to clean digital money. His followers, mostly teenagers, idolized him, reposting his videos even as rumors of fraud began to surface. The arrest was spectacular. Aaron was pulled over during a live stream on Interstate 10 while showing off his new Benz. Officers swarmed the car, guns drawn. Viewers thought it was a prank until they saw him thrown to the ground. Within hours, Yoshie the Realist trended at #1 on TikTok. His account was suspended. His videos wiped clean. The FBI press release the next day confirmed it. He'd been charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud, aggravated identity theft, and money laundering. The total amount involved, over $450,000. During his trial, the courtroom was filled with fans. Some cried. Others still defended him online, claiming the feds just hate successful black creators. His defense attorney argued that Aaron had been exploited by people who saw him as a ticket to fast money. But the evidence, encrypted messages, fake IDs, and video clips of him boasting about beating the system, sealed his fate. The judge called it a tragedy born from social media delusion. He was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison. In interviews from behind bars, Aaron's tone changed. Gone was the cocky influencer. He spoke softly about pressure, about how every viral video made him feel he had to top himself, make more money, show more proof that he was winning. "I wanted people to see success," he said, "even if I had to steal it." His last words to the interviewer before being escorted back to his cell lingered. "TikTok made me famous, but the streets made me who I am. I just never knew which one would catch up first." When 22-year-old Madison Keene started gaining followers for her dance routines in 2020, she looked like every other cheerful influencer in Florida. Bright beach backgrounds, colorful outfits, a golden retriever in frame. But what set her apart wasn't her choreography. It was the sense that she was genuinely happy. Her captions overflowed with positivity. "Chase your dreams. Kindness always wins." She grew from 5,000 followers to over 2 million in under a year. She signed sponsorship deals with athletic brands, appeared in TikTok compilations, and was hailed as the next clean girl success story. But behind that carefully curated feed, Madison's life was collapsing. Her boyfriend, a 25-year-old minor league baseball player named Jake Rowe, was physically abusive. Friends later told police that she'd often show up to shoots with bruises, explaining them away as clumsy falls. She began isolating herself, posting less and drinking more. When she did post, her eyes looked tired, her smile rehearsed. On a humid August night in 2021, the illusion shattered. Jake was found dead in the couple's apartment, a single stab wound to the chest. Madison called 911 herself, crying hysterically and claiming he fell during a fight. The dispatcher recorded her screaming, "He wouldn't stop hitting me. Please help." When officers arrived, she was covered in blood, shaking, her phone still recording. The video would later circulate online, leaked by someone in law enforcement, sparking national outrage. In the days that followed, The internet turned into a courtroom. Hashtags like the Justice for Jake and the Free Maddie battled for dominance. Some painted her as a victim of domestic abuse who finally snapped. Others accused her of murder. The press tore through every detail of her online life, analyzing old TikToks for signs of darkness. Sponsors dropped her overnight. Her management company deleted all posts referencing her name. The investigation uncovered a complicated picture. Neighbors heard frequent arguments, objects breaking, muffled screams. But Jake's autopsy revealed a downward stab angle, not consistent with self-defense, prosecutors argued. The kitchen knife had her fingerprints and no defensive wounds on his hands. They painted the incident as a crime of passion fueled by jealousy after Jake allegedly cheated. The trial began in April 2022. Madison arrived each day in an oversized blazer, hair tied back, eyes down. The prosecution displayed text messages showing her threatening to end him if he ever left. The defense countered with photos of bruises, police reports never filed, and testimony from friends describing Jake's temper. The courtroom was split, half pity, half rage. When the verdict came, it silenced the room, guilty of second-degree murder. The judge sentenced her to 25 years in prison, citing uncontrolled rage and lack of remorse. She collapsed as the words were read, sobbing uncontrollably. Outside, protesters held signs, "Abuse victims deserve better." In prison, she receives letters daily, mostly from young women who saw themselves in her story. She's reportedly working on a memoir, detailing her life before TikTok and how fame trapped her in an image she couldn't live up to. "If I'd asked for help instead of pretending everything was perfect," she wrote in one of her few public statements, "maybe Jake would still be alive, and maybe I'd still be free." Her old videos still circulate, stitched with somber music and comments like, "She danced to hide the pain." For a generation raised on filters and illusions, Madison's story became a haunting reminder. You can choreograph your image, but you can't edit your truth. Evan Tran's TikTok fame came from silence. He didn't speak in his videos, didn't lip-sync or tell stories. He filmed empty streets at night, gas stations at 3 a.m., diners half-lit by flickering neon. Over slow, melancholic music, he'd add cryptic captions. "You ever wonder who's watching?" Or "Some nights never end." It was a strange corner of TikTok, moody, hypnotic, and deeply personal. By 2021, he had 3 million followers who called him the Midnight Poet. But beneath that quiet artistry was a secret that would shatter his audience's devotion and leave investigators piecing together a digital trail of obsession and death. Evan lived in Portland, Oregon. Neighbors described him as polite, quiet, always filming. He worked part-time at a coffee shop, using his earnings to upgrade his camera gear. He'd often post videos tagged with the same location names: obscure diners, parking garages, forest roads. What his fans didn't know was that many of those places weren't random. They were connected to one person, a former girlfriend named Elise. She had broken up with him in 2019, long before he became famous. But as his following grew, so did his fixation. He began revisiting the places they'd gone together, filming them as memorials. The captions grew darker. "She left, but the road still remembers her." In early 2022, Elise started receiving anonymous packages, Polaroids of herself taken through windows, parking receipts from places she hadn't visited in months, and USB drives containing videos that mirrored Evan's TikToks but included her apartment number. Terrified, she went to police. They warned Evan to stay away. He denied everything. On camera, he played the role of a misunderstood artist, telling his followers that he was being persecuted for being emotional. His fans flooded Elise's social media with hate comments, calling her heartless and the reason art dies. 2 months later, Elise disappeared. Her car was found near Mount Tabor Park, her phone abandoned inside. The city went into panic mode. Volunteers searched trails for days. Evan posted a video titled, "She Finally Saw the Sunrise." It showed a misty forest at dawn, the camera shaking slightly. his hand visible in one frame holding a woman's hair tie. The video went viral, 20 million views in 24 hours, before TikTok removed it for violating community guidelines. By then, the damage was done. Viewers had started connecting dots. Police raided Evan's apartment that same night. Inside, they found what they called a digital shrine, thousands of photos of Elise, timestamps matching his TikToks, and journal entries describing his mission to immortalize her through art. Forensic teams discovered GPS data from his camera that placed him at Mount Tabor Park the same morning Elise vanished. In his bathroom, under a loose tile, investigators found her necklace. Evan was arrested on suspicion of kidnapping and murder. During questioning, he refused to speak. Detectives later said he only smiled and asked if he could film one last video. He was charged with first-degree murder, stalking, and obstruction of justice. His trial drew national attention as prosecutors played clips from his own TikToks to demonstrate premeditation. Each frame was a breadcrumb leading to his guilt. When the verdict came, guilty on all counts, Evan showed no emotion. His sentencing statement was short. Art demands sacrifice. The judge replied, "You mistook obsession for creation, and a woman paid the price." He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. His followers splintered after the case. Some deleted their accounts. Others still believe he was framed, calling his conviction a commentary on misunderstood artists. The internet had birthed another monster, one whose fame thrived on attention until it devoured everything real in his life. And somewhere online, his last upload still circulates through reposts. A looping video of an empty diner at night captioned simply, "I told you I'd never stop watching." Lana Myers became famous for laughing. That was her whole brand: contagious laughter, messy hair, a face full of joy. She'd post videos of herself and her younger sister pulling pranks, baking disasters, or late-night car karaoke sessions. The Myers sisters was what her fans called them, and by 2021 they had nearly 4 million followers. They were invited to conventions, sponsorships, and collaborations with bigger creators. But what no one saw was the quiet, dangerous undercurrent beneath the laughter, a pattern of control, resentment, and lies that would end in one of the most disturbing influencer crimes of the decade. Lana was 24, her sister Emily just 19. They lived together in a rented house outside Denver, making TikToks full-time. Their mother had passed away years earlier, and Emily had always looked up to Lana as both sister and guardian. But as the money started rolling in, everything changed. Lana took control of the finances, the brand deals, the email accounts. Emily later told friends she received only small allowances from their joint earnings. "It's her name on everything," Emily said in one message, "but she says it's for tax reasons." By 2022, cracks started to show. Emily began her own side account, posting makeup tutorials and vlogs about finding her own voice. It exploded overnight, millions of likes, sponsorship offers, and praise for being the more relatable sister. Lana didn't handle it well. In private, she accused Emily of betrayal. In public, she smiled through gritted teeth, posting funny videos about sibling rivalry that fans found increasingly uncomfortable. In one live stream, she joked, "Maybe I should just delete her account." No one laughed. On a cold February night, Emily was found dead in their home. The initial 911 call came from Lana herself. She told police Emily had fallen down the stairs after an argument. The scene told a different story: blood on the walls, a shattered phone, and bruises on Emily's wrists, consistent with restraint. Neighbors reported hearing shouting for nearly an hour before silence fell. Lana was taken in for questioning, visibly distraught but oddly detached. When investigators examined Emily's phone, they found voice memos recorded that night. One capturing Lana screaming, "You wouldn't exist without me," followed by the sound of a struggle. The evidence was overwhelming. A forensics team found traces of sedatives in Emily's system and security footage from a neighbor's camera showing Lana dragging her sister's body down the stairs, moments before calling 911. Detectives also uncovered deleted drafts from Lana's TikTok account. Scheduled posts captioned saying, "Goodbye, and sometimes family can't handle success." Prosecutors described her as a creator so obsessed with control that she saw murder as rebranding. During her trial, the courtroom was split between disbelief and horror. Her defense argued emotional instability, claiming years of pressure and exhaustion had driven her to a breaking point. But the prosecution focused on intent. The financial documents showing she'd transferred all business ownership to herself just days before the killing. The jury took only 5 hours to deliberate. Guilty of second-degree murder. At sentencing, Lana broke down completely. "I just wanted to keep us together," she sobbed, hands shaking. "The internet took her from me." The judge responded coldly. "You didn't lose her to the internet. You destroyed her with your own hands." She was sentenced to 40 years in prison. Today, fans still argue online. Some claim she's misunderstood. Others call her evil. The old videos of the sisters laughing together have been reposted endlessly, now set to sad piano music, with comments like, "You can almost see it in her eyes." The house where they filmed hundreds of cheerful clips sits empty, its windows boarded, their laughter long gone. In an interview from prison, Lana said she still watches their videos on the communal TV when reruns of old TikTok compilations air. "We looked so happy," she said quietly. "For a few minutes I can almost believe it was real." When Marcus Lee, better known as Mark the Spark, hit 10 million followers, he said it was just the beginning. His brand was pure adrenaline. Fire stunts, rooftop jumps, and dangerous dares filmed across Los Angeles. Every clip started the same way. "Don't try this at home, unless you're me." He was TikTok's daredevil king, the kind of personality that drew both sponsorships and controversy. Fans called him fearless. Police called him reckless. By the time his empire crumbled, that recklessness had turned lethal. Marcus had started small, flipping over fences and jumping from moving cars with his friends in high school. He built a loyal audience of thrill-seekers who craved escalation. Each video had to top the last. By 2021, he had brand deals with energy drink companies, camera sponsors, and clothing lines. The money was good, but the pressure to keep breaking boundaries became suffocating. Behind the camera, his crew was shrinking. Friends who once filmed with him dropped out after injuries, but Marcus kept pushing. Always one more stunt, one more viral moment. The breaking point came in July 2022. Marcus announced he'd perform his biggest stunt yet, jumping a sports car over a riverbed while live streaming. The setup was amateur at best. His team used plywood ramps and a rented car. Hundreds of fans gathered nearby to watch in person. Thousands tuned in online. The energy was manic, like a festival. He revved the engine, grinning at the camera. "History, baby," he shouted. "Let's make it happen." What the live stream captured next would haunt everyone who saw it. The car sped up, hit the ramp unevenly, and veered off course. It slammed into a crowd of spectators before flipping into the riverbed below. Screams filled the stream before the video cut out. 3 people were killed, including a 17-year-old fan. Dozens were injured. Within hours, police arrived at the scene. Marcus survived with minor injuries and was taken into custody. His live stream had served as evidence. Prosecutors later said it was the clearest documentation of criminal negligence ever seen online. The district attorney charged him with 3 counts of manslaughter and reckless endangerment. Public opinion turned overnight. Fans deleted their tributes, brands cut ties, and the internet filled with shock and rage. At his trial, Marcus looked like a ghost of his former self. Gone was the confident influencer. His hair buzzed short, his body slouched, eyes dull. His lawyers argued that the event was a tragic accident, that safety barriers had failed, that he never meant harm. The prosecution countered with a library of videos showing his repeated disregard for safety laws, including clips where he laughed about being too famous to get arrested. The courtroom fell silent when they played the final moments of the live stream. The laughter, the revving engine, the chaos. He was sentenced to 18 years in prison. As the sentence was read, Marcus didn't cry. He only nodded. Later, in an interview with a prison reporter, he said, I thought I was invincible. Every like felt like permission to go further. Then I realized people were watching me die in real time, and they called it entertainment. The victims' families sued his remaining sponsors, leading to one of the first landmark cases against influencer-related negligence. TikTok introduced new, dangerous stunt moderation policies soon after, unofficially known as the Spark Rule. Today, the original video is banned on all major platforms, though low-quality versions still circulate on the dark web. Whenever they resurface, they reignite the same question. Was he a creator who went too far, or an audience that pushed him there? In prison, Marcus teaches video editing classes. He tells younger inmates about lighting, pacing, algorithms, the same things that once made him rich. Every frame is a choice, he says. One day I just chose the wrong one. Samantha Doyle never planned to be famous. She was a preschool teacher in Arizona, quiet, soft-spoken, the kind of person who baked cupcakes for her students on Fridays. But during the lockdowns of 2020, she started posting short videos about parenting advice and early childhood learning. Her gentle tone and sincere smile made her an instant hit. Ms. Sam the teacher became a viral comfort. Parents adored her tips. Kids recognized her voice. By 2021, she had 5 million followers, a book deal in progress, and corporate sponsorships lined up. But the woman who became the internet's favorite teacher was hiding something she could never explain away. And when it came out, her entire life collapsed overnight. The first sign something was wrong appeared in a brief, shaky video she posted and quickly deleted. It showed a darkened classroom, children's toys stacked in corners, and a faint whisper of a child's voice saying, "I don't want to." Viewers assumed it was an editing error. She never addressed it. Then, a local news station in Phoenix reported an ongoing police investigation involving inappropriate contact at a private daycare where Samantha had once worked. Her name wasn't mentioned, but the internet connected the dots. Within hours, her comment sections filled with questions, rumors, and disbelief. Days later, she was arrested. The charge: possession and distribution of explicit material involving minors. Detectives had traced online uploads back to her home IP address, videos recorded inside the daycare, hidden cameras placed by her. The discovery horrified both parents and followers. Authorities seized her computer, finding hundreds of files. In court documents later released, prosecutors said she had exploited her trusted position as a caretaker. The case became national news, amplified by her online fame. Clips of her smiling face teaching phonics or giving advice about empathy now appeared next to headlines about her crimes. At her arraignment, she appeared pale, trembling, eyes darting around the courtroom. Her attorney claimed she'd been framed, that others at the daycare had access to her devices. But as investigators examined her hard drives, they found voice memos and photos linking her directly to the recordings. Messages on encrypted apps showed her sharing files with anonymous users in exchange for digital currency. The evidence was overwhelming. Her followers were stunned. Some refused to believe it. Others organized online groups demanding justice for the victims. Parents of the children involved appeared on television, voices cracking as they described their betrayal. "We trusted her," one father said. "We watched her videos every morning. She looked like someone you could leave your child with." During the trial, prosecutors presented the contrast between her online persona and her actions as the ultimate deception. They replayed clips of her cheerful TikToks before displaying the forensic evidence, forcing jurors to confront the horror of her double life. Samantha never took the stand. When asked if she had anything to say during sentencing, she whispered, "I wish I could erase myself." The judge sentenced her to 60 years in federal prison, the maximum allowed under state and federal charges combined. The internet's reaction was explosive: mass unfollows, outrage, and disbelief. News anchors debated whether influencers who work with children should face stricter screening. Her videos were scrubbed from TikTok, though fragments still surface in true crime compilations. The once beloved teacher became a symbol of how easily trust can be manipulated through a phone screen. Years later, one journalist who interviewed her in prison described her as hauntingly detached. She no longer teaches classes, no longer smiles for cameras. "I wanted to help people," she said quietly. Somewhere that stopped being true. The room fell silent after she spoke. For the millions who once called her Ms. Sam, that silence said everything the internet never could. Ali Abulaban was a man who wanted to be adored. Online, he was known as JinnKid, a comedic skit creator whose uncanny impersonations of Tony Montana and Al Pacino earned him hundreds of thousands of followers. His clips felt harmless, a man pacing his San Diego apartment, mocking celebrity culture, weaving little monologues that hinted at an actor's ambition. People laughed, shared, commented, followed. To them, he was another rising TikTok personality chasing the modern American dream through phone screens and algorithms. But offline, the tone was different, darker, obsessive, and increasingly violent. By 2021, Ali and his wife Anna were separated. Their marriage had crumbled under jealousy, infidelity, and control. Anna was 28, radiant, independent, and tired of the emotional storms that followed every argument. She had moved to a new apartment, seeking space to rebuild her life. Ali, however, couldn't let go. He believed she was seeing someone else. His friends noticed the shift. The skits turned erratic, his eyes hollow. The jokes about jealousy stopped being jokes. In October 2021, Ali installed a listening device, secretly using his daughter's iPad to eavesdrop on Anna's new apartment. What he heard that day would become the breaking point. Through the device, he claimed to have overheard another man's voice. That man was 29-year-old Rayburn Barron, a friend. What followed next was not just a crime of passion. It was an execution born of obsession and entitlement. Ali drove across town with a gun. Surveillance footage later showed him entering the apartment complex under the guise of reconciliation. Inside, Anna and Rayburn were sitting together, unaware that Ali had already unlocked the door with his copy of the key. Within seconds, the sound of gunfire tore through the walls. Anna was shot in the head. Rayburn was shot multiple times in the neck and chest. Neither survived. What happened after was chilling in its calmness. Ali called his mother first, not 911. He confessed to her that he had just killed Anna and her friend. Then he drove to pick up his 5-year-old daughter from school. Witnesses later testified that he was trembling, muttering to himself in the parking lot. Police arrived shortly after and arrested him without resistance. In his car, they found the loaded handgun still warm from the shots. The case quickly spread across TikTok and other platforms. His followers, the same ones who had laughed at his skits, began to piece together the timeline. Videos resurfaced where Ali had joked about jealousy, about violence, even about going Scarface mode. What once felt like performance now seemed prophetic. Forensic analysts later found search histories on his phone for phrases like, "how to kill someone and get away with it." During the trial, prosecutors painted Ali Abulaban as a narcissist consumed by fame and rejection, a man whose online persona masked a dangerous instability. The defense argued diminished capacity and emotional breakdown, but the evidence was too overwhelming. The recording device, the premeditation, the calm phone calls, they left little room for sympathy. Anna's family filled the courtroom during sentencing. Her mother spoke softly, her voice breaking as she described how her daughter's life was taken because a man couldn't stand to be forgotten. The judge called the murders an act of pure control and cruelty. In May 2024, Ali Abulaban was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder. The sentence: life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The TikTok account JinnKid was deleted soon after the verdict, but the digital traces remain. Reaction videos, old duets, comments that now read like ghostly echoes of a fame turned fatal. His followers, once thousands strong, now scroll through news headlines instead of skits. Anna's story became part of a growing conversation about social media personas and domestic violence. How the pressure to appear perfect can mask deep fractures beneath the surface. For many, it was a reminder that virality doesn't equal happiness, that fame cannot heal obsession, and that behind the filters and followers, real lives can unravel in silence. Today, Ali sits behind bars in a California state prison. The sound of applause and laughter from his videos has been replaced by the metal hum of routine, the closing of a cell door, the echo of footsteps on concrete. And somewhere in the quiet, the world that once watched him perform has moved on, leaving behind a cautionary tale about the darkness that fame can hide, and the lives it can destroy when the performance ends. In 2020, the Egyptian social media landscape was bursting with youth voices, songs, comedy, dance, and short vlogs that made life in Cairo look modern, hopeful, and connected to the rest of the world. Among those voices was a 20-year-old student named Hanin Hossam. She was a bright university girl who started using TikTok to talk about confidence, lifestyle, and motivation. Her content was tame by Western standards, smiling monologues, lip syncs, and personal messages. But in conservative Egypt, that kind of freedom was both new and controversial. At the same time, another young woman, Mawada al-Adham, was building her own following. She was slightly older, more glamorous, posting photos and clips that leaned toward modern fashion and bold self-expression. Together, Hanin and Mawada became part of a generation of Egyptian women reshaping what it meant to be visible online. They weren't celebrities in the traditional sense. They were ordinary young women with smartphones, carving space for themselves in a society that often told them to stay quiet. Then, almost overnight, everything changed. In April 2020, Egyptian authorities arrested Hanin Hossam after she posted a short TikTok video inviting other women to join a social media agency where they could earn money from live streaming. In the video, she smiled and spoke confidently about financial independence, but the prosecution saw something else. They accused her of inciting debauchery and human trafficking, claiming that she was encouraging women to use themselves online for profit. It was a broad, ambiguous charge, one that blurred the line between online work and moral panic. Mawada al-Adham was arrested soon after. The two were grouped together in the same case, symbolizing what state prosecutors called a campaign against immorality on social media. The news shocked their followers. For days, TikTok and Twitter filled with the same question. How could posting videos lead to years in prison? Their trial began in 2021. Inside the Cairo courtroom, both women appeared covered, quiet, heads bowed as photographers shouted their names. The prosecution presented screenshots, videos, and transcripts as evidence that their content violated Egyptian family values. But behind the official language was a deeper cultural conflict. The clash between a digital generation that lived online and a traditional society uncomfortable with women's self-expression. Hanin cried through much of the trial. She said she never forced anyone to do anything, that she simply invited followers to join a live streaming app for pay. I didn't hurt anyone, she told the court. I just wanted to support my family. But the authorities were unrelenting. They made her an example. In June 2021, the court sentenced Hanin Hossam to 10 years in prison and Mawada al-Adham to 6 years, both on charges of human trafficking and violating public morals. The decision sparked outrage across social media and international human rights circles. Organizations like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch condemned the verdict as an attack on women's digital freedom. But inside Egypt, the message was clear. Social media fame came with a cost. For months, Hanin remained missing. Reports said she went into hiding after learning about the verdict. Videos began surfacing where she tearfully pleaded to the president, asking for forgiveness and insisting she had done nothing wrong. I swear to God I didn't commit a crime, she said through tears. They destroyed my future for a misunderstanding. Authorities eventually tracked her down and arrested her again. She served time in prison, where journalists later reported that she spent her days teaching English to other inmates. Mawada's imprisonment followed a similar pattern, from bright lights and brand deals to isolation and silence behind bars. Over time, both women's sentences were partially appealed and reduced, but the stigma remained. Their TikTok accounts were deleted. Their names became shorthand for the TikTok girls, a term used by state media to represent moral decline. But to others, they became symbols of defiance, victims of a system struggling to reconcile the old world with the new. Even after release, they found themselves under surveillance, their every word online monitored. Neither could return to the life they once knew. The followers who had once cheered for them now debated their guilt, their morality, their meaning in a rapidly changing Egypt. Their story remains one of the most chilling examples of how fame, especially for women in conservative societies, can turn from opportunity to imprisonment overnight. They hadn't killed anyone, stolen anything, or defrauded followers. Their crime was visibility. And so, long after the cameras stopped recording, the lesson remained. In some places, becoming famous isn't about freedom. It's about risk. And the brighter the screen, the harsher the shadows it can cast when society decides it's seen too much. It began, like so many tragedies of the digital age, with a camera and a promise. Karachi in the late 2010s had become a city of screens, ring lights in narrow rooms, young people lip-syncing to Bollywood songs, the faint hum of motorbikes mixing with the muffled sound of trending audios. Everyone wanted to go viral. Everyone thought they might. Sarah was one of them. 22 years old, she'd started posting short dance videos from her rooftop, glimpses of sunlight over the city's broken skyline, her laughter echoing against concrete walls. Her followers grew fast, hungry for her confidence, her humor, her insistence on being seen in a place that often told women to hide. She wasn't a star, not yet, but she was known. Her handle appeared on Explore pages. Her name whispered through comment threads. And among the many strangers watching her videos was a man named Altaf, a 35-year-old with a sharp smile and a reputation for being able to make people famous. He ran a small digital marketing company, mostly a few friends managing social pages for low-budget music videos. His profile looked professional enough. Clean logo, well-worded bios, photos in cafes with influencers. He reached out to Sarah one evening through her direct messages. "You have real potential," he wrote. "You just need management. I can help." Sarah hesitated. She'd heard stories. Men who promised followers and delivered something else. But Altaf seemed different. He talked about brand deals, about growing her reach across Pakistan and the Gulf. His messages were polite, his tone businesslike. She agreed to meet, in daylight, in a cafe full of people. He brought contracts, or something that looked like contracts. She signed the pages without reading much. She wanted to believe in the version of herself he described. At first, it felt real. He arranged photo shoots, introduced her to videographers, even lent her his studio for recording. Within weeks, her follower count doubled. Altaf congratulated her in long voice notes, telling her she had the spark. But soon the tone shifted. He began to insist on private meetings. He wanted to capture her raw personality, he said, behind-the-scenes footage, candid shots, a different kind of intimacy that didn't belong to brand deals. One evening, he invited her to a small launch party in Clifton. She remembered the room being dimly lit, music low, glasses sweating with ice. There were 2 other influencers she recognized and a few men she didn't. Altaf handed her a drink, sweet, cold, and faintly metallic. The rest of the night dissolved into fragments, a blurred phone screen, laughter that didn't sound like hers, and a camera flash in the dark. When she woke up, the world was wrong. Her head throbbed, her phone was gone, and Altaf's tone had changed completely. He told her not to call anyone, that she'd embarrassed herself, that she should trust him to manage the damage. She didn't know what he meant until days later, when a friend sent her a link. Private photos, intimate images of her unconscious, circulating in Telegram groups and WhatsApp threads. The shame was immediate and suffocating. In Karachi's digital world, rumors spread faster than truth. Comment sections filled with slurs, with strangers dissecting her morality, her character. She stopped posting, stopped leaving the house. Her parents refused to talk about it. Her world shrank to the walls of her room and the endless scroll of her own downfall. But then something shifted. Another girl, younger, from a nearby neighborhood, messaged her anonymously. She said she'd met Altaf too. The story was the same. Promises, parties, missing time. Within a week, Sarah found 4 more women with nearly identical experiences. It was no longer about shame. It was about survival. They filed a complaint at the Federal Investigation Agency's cybercrime wing. The process was humiliating. Questions that felt like accusations, statements written under fluorescent lights. But this time, the system listened. Investigators traced the leaked photos to Altaf's cloud storage. They found multiple folders, names, videos, dates, each labeled neatly, like evidence waiting to be discovered. When they arrested him, he denied everything. He said the women were influencers gone bitter, that the photos were fabricated, that he'd been framed. But forensic analysis told another story. Metadata matching his devices, timestamps aligned with his messages, and copies of videos he'd sent to others under anonymous accounts. The trial took nearly 2 years. Every hearing brought new spectators, journalists, activists, families clutching photographs. Altaf arrived in pressed clothes, always smiling faintly, as though convinced he could charm his way out. But testimony after testimony built the same picture. A man who hunted fame-hungry young women, drugged them, and weaponized their images for power and silence. Sarah spoke in court once. Her voice was calm but brittle. "He didn't just steal our privacy," she said. "He stole our lives. Every time someone searches my name, I disappear a little more." The verdict came in early 2024. Altaf Ali was sentenced to 9 years in prison for criminal intimidation, digital exploitation, and the unlawful distribution of private content under Pakistan's Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act. His appeal was denied. When the news broke, it rippled through Karachi's influencer community. Some cheered quietly, relieved that justice, rare and fragile, had arrived. Others deleted their accounts altogether, fearing how easily admiration could turn into violation. For weeks, the city felt different. Parties grew smaller, invitations rarer, trust thinner. Sarah never returned to TikTok. She deleted her old videos, wiped her profiles clean, and started over under a new name. Sometimes she would scroll through anonymous accounts, seeing new faces rise to the same fragile fame she once chased. She didn't envy them anymore. The case changed more than just a handful of lives. It exposed how vulnerable the pursuit of digital stardom could be in a culture where technology moves faster than protection, where the idea of influence exists without safety nets. It forced agencies to confront a new kind of predator, one who didn't hide in alleys but behind engagement metrics and blue-lit screens. Reporters later described Altaf's arrest as the first of its kind, but that phrase carried its own unease. Firsts are rarely last. Years later, in interviews, Sarah spoke about the silence that followed the verdict, how victory felt less like triumph and more like exhaustion. "When I hear the word justice," she said, "I think of how long it takes and how little it gives back." Still, she kept one of the old videos, the rooftop one, where the light caught her hair and the city spread beneath her like a promise. Sometimes she would watch it alone, the sound muted, the frame frozen on her smile. It was a reminder of who she'd been before fame, before fear, before someone turned her dreams into evidence. In the end, the story of Altaf and the girls he exploited wasn't just about crime or technology. It was about visibility, who gets to be seen, and who pays the price for being seen wrong. The city still hums with ring lights and music, with faces performing hope into cameras. But beneath every clip, there's a quiet knowledge that in the race for digital validation, someone is always watching, and not everyone who offers to help you shine wants to see you free. The camera always saw them smiling, Every clip, every post, every live stream told the same story. A mother and daughter living their best lives. The comments adored them. Goals, queens, beautiful bond. Together they were proof that fame wasn't just for the young. That even in middle age you could glow again if you had the right filters, the right soundtrack, the right ring light. They called themselves the Zahiris, and for nearly 2 years, their TikTok account had been one of the fastest growing in their part of the UK. Layla, the mother, was 45, but didn't look it. Her daughter, Noor, 23, was the main attraction, stunning, magnetic, with a voice that could turn any ordinary rant into a viral confession. Their videos were part lifestyle, part drama, part theater. But beneath the laughter, something darker was gathering. It started, as these stories often do, with someone they thought they could trust. His name was Rayan, a friend, a fan, and eventually something in between. He was older than Noor by a few years, charming in a quiet way, the kind of man who always knew what to say when a camera wasn't rolling. They met at an influencer event in Birmingham. He had modest success online, running a fitness account and working part-time in digital marketing. Noor liked him because he seemed genuine. Her mother liked him because he seemed stable. But within months things turned complicated. The messages grew possessive. The compliments turned into accusations. He began showing up at shoots uninvited, standing just off camera watching. When Noor finally told him she wanted to end things, he threatened to leak everything. Noor had trusted him with photos, videos, private moments, the kind that could destroy reputations in a heartbeat. Rayan said he wouldn't release them if she agreed to meet one last time. She refused. That's when he began posting cryptic comments under her TikToks. Things that seemed harmless to strangers, but terrifyingly specific to her. Layla begged her daughter to go to the police, but Noor was terrified of the scandal. "If people see those videos, we're done," she whispered. So they handled it privately, or tried to. In February 2022, they devised what they thought was a plan, a meeting to settle things. Layla texted him from Noor's phone, pretending to be her daughter, agreeing to meet at a quiet spot just outside Leicester. But the plan wasn't to talk. It was to scare him into silence. The night of February 11th was cold and windless. Rayan arrived first, his car idling near the roadside, headlights cutting through fog. Minutes later, another vehicle pulled up, a dark Audi with tinted windows. Noor wasn't inside. Her mother was. What happened next unfolded in less than 4 minutes. Witnesses would later describe the sound of metal against metal, a scream, and the sharp crack of a collision. By the time police arrived, Rayan's car was a wreck at the bottom of a small embankment. He'd been run off the road deliberately. The driver of the Audi was gone. The next morning, investigators pieced together fragments, CCTV footage, phone records, witness accounts. The Audi was traced to a rental company in Nottingham. The paperwork listed a driver named Farah Malik, an alias linked to Noor's cousin. Within days, police raided the Zahiri's home. Noor's phone was missing. Layla's was wiped clean. But inside the car's glove compartment, forensic technicians found a fingerprint. Hers. For weeks, the story dominated British tabloids. A mother and daughter, social media influencers, accused of orchestrating a murder. Their smiling faces, once fixtures of viral dance videos, now appeared above headlines like, "TikTok duo charged in revenge killing." The public couldn't look away. The irony was irresistible. Prosecutors described it as a modern Greek tragedy, fame, jealousy, and betrayal collapsing into violence. The evidence was damning, GPS data showing the Audi tailing Rayan's car for over 10 miles. Voice notes recovered from Noor's old account, where she and her mother discussed teaching him a lesson. Deleted messages restored by digital forensics that revealed meticulous planning. In court, Noor broke down often. Her defense team argued that she never intended to kill anyone, that her mother had taken control of the situation. Layla, they claimed, believed she was protecting her child from blackmail, not plotting murder. But the jury saw something else. They saw calculation, arrogance, and the unshakable belief that they could choreograph real life the way they choreographed content, cutting away the messy parts until only the story they wanted remained. The verdict came in late 2023. Both were found guilty of murder and conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. Layla was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 31 years. Noor received 26. The judge called their actions a performance of deceit that turned lethal. In the silence that followed, their TikTok account went dark. Videos vanished. The ring light in their old living room was found still standing, unplugged, collecting dust. Those who once followed them spoke of shock, how their favorite creators could have planned something so cruel. Others said they weren't surprised. "They always looked too perfect," one follower commented under an archived clip. It never felt real. From her cell, Noor reportedly wrote to a friend, "We wanted to control the story before it controlled us. But stories like theirs can't be controlled. They live on in headlines, in YouTube documentaries, in the uneasy fascination people have with watching beautiful lives unravel." The case changed the way police looked at influencer culture in the UK. Investigators began monitoring online threats more closely, understanding that fame amplifies not only admiration, but obsession. It blurred the line between digital and physical violence, between words typed on a screen and the blood spilled on asphalt. In the months after the verdict, journalists revisited the spot where Rayhan's car had gone off the road. It was quiet again. Grass had grown over the tire marks. Someone had placed a small bunch of fake roses near the guardrail, faded from rain, tied with black ribbon. The world had already moved on to new scandals, new creators, new dramas. But in the corners of TikTok, among the stitched reaction videos and crime breakdowns, the story of the Zahiris remained a ghost. Viewers still replayed their old clips, smiling faces, lip-syncing to love songs, unaware of the violence waiting off camera. It's strange how digital fame makes people immortal in fragments. You can delete the profile, but not the copies. You can erase the phone, but not the memories people already downloaded. Somewhere in the endless circulation of reposted content, Noor and Layla still dance, still laugh, still look like the people they once pretended to be. And maybe that's the most haunting part, that even after everything, they'll always look alive. It was supposed to be the stunt that changed everything. For months, Eli Navarro had been losing followers. The numbers that once climbed by the thousands now trickled downward, one unfollow at a time, like sand slipping through his fingers. TikTok's algorithm had turned cold. Newer faces, younger faces, wilder faces had taken his place. And Eli, once the king of rooftop stunts, couldn't stand being forgotten. He started out as just another daredevil. The early videos were harmless. Parkour jumps across low buildings, balance tricks on fences, handstands in empty parking lots. But the audience's appetite grew, and so did his need to impress. By 2021, he was scaling cranes, dangling from skyscrapers, and performing handstands on rooftops without safety gear. Every clip was tagged with "No Fear Navarro," and it wasn't just a name. It was a challenge to himself. When you scrolled through his feed, you saw confidence. You didn't see the trembling hands before every climb, the cold sweat on his back when the camera stopped, the way he'd sit afterward in silence, staring at the view, wondering how long he could keep doing this. Then came the live streams. TikTok's new live feature rewarded engagement, comments, likes, hearts, and Eli learned fast that fear sold better when it was happening in real time. The first live climb brought him 30,000 viewers. The second, 50,000. Every new stream pushed him further. One more stunt, he'd say. Just one more for the followers. But fame is like gravity. The higher you go, the harder the fall. In early 2022, Eli was living in Los Angeles, crashing in a downtown apartment with two other content creators, friends who filmed everything and slept little. The city's rooftops had become his stage. But as sponsorships faded and bills piled up, his stunts became desperate. Then he found it, a half-finished skyscraper near Wilshire Boulevard, 60 stories high, surrounded by warning signs and security cameras. It was perfect. On April 9th, he posted a teaser. "Tomorrow, I'll do something no one's done before. The highest handstand in LA. If I fall a legend." The post hit 3 million views overnight. Brands reached out. Local news stations called it reckless. But Eli didn't care. The next day, he packed his camera, a GoPro, a phone mount, and a bottle of energy drink. He went live at 5:46 p.m. "Yo, what's up, everybody?" he said, grinning into the phone. The comments poured in. Hearts, fire emojis, shouts of "no fear." The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. He was 700 feet above the ground, standing on a narrow steel beam with nothing between him and the city below. At first, everything went right. He filmed the view, cracked jokes, waved to the camera. "It's not about dying," he said. "It's about living louder than everyone else." Then he climbed onto the final beam. Viewers saw him plant his hands, shift his weight, lift his legs. The chat exploded. Hearts, OMGs, thousands watching live. Then there was a pause. A wobble, the camera shook. A sound, a metallic scrape, a muffled gasp. And the stream went black. For 3 minutes, the live continued with only the sound of wind and distant traffic. Comments flooded in. "Is this real? Bro, Eli." Then the feed cut out. By nightfall, clips of the incident had spread everywhere. Screen recordings uploaded to YouTube, Twitter, Reddit. Influencer falls during TikTok livestream. The video was viewed 18 million times before being removed. When rescue teams found him hours later, his phone was still streaming. The impact had shattered the screen, but not the signal. His final broadcast had captured the sound of his own death. The next morning, the world woke to headlines that blurred the line between tragedy and spectacle. TikTok daredevil dies doing what he loved. Livestream gone wrong. Comment sections filled with disbelief and guilt. Fans who'd cheered his risks now begged for the video to be deleted. Others accused TikTok of encouraging dangerous content. But behind the viral chaos, there was a real person. His sister, Lena, who had been watching the live stream from her apartment in Texas. She was the first to call 911 when the screen went dark. She was also the one who had begged him, months earlier, to stop. "You're not a brand," she'd told him. "You're a person." He'd laughed, said she didn't understand. "If I stop, I disappear." At the memorial held 2 weeks later, dozens of fans showed up. Some wore shirts printed with his face. Others filmed themselves crying, turning grief into content. A few even climbed nearby rooftops in tribute, tagging their posts with, "Junk, do it for Eli." It was as if no one had learned anything. TikTok removed his account after pressure from his family, but copies of his videos continued circulating, edited into compilations, reaction videos, even memes. His final live stream was banned repeatedly but always re-uploaded. The internet wouldn't let him rest. Investigators later revealed that Eli had been suffering from severe anxiety and insomnia. His messages showed growing desperation. "If I stop posting, the algorithm buries me." His friend said he had no backup plan. Fame was his only identity, and he was terrified of losing it. Experts pointed to his case as the turning point in the conversation about influencer addiction. The way social platforms reward danger, pushing creators towards self-destruction. Within months, TikTok introduced new rules for live content, mandatory delay buffers, safety warnings, and content moderation for risky behavior. It was too late for Eli, but it saved others. One journalist described it best. "He climbed to be seen and fell because we couldn't look away." In the years since his death, his name became both a warning and a legend. Urban explorers quoted him like scripture. Documentaries dissected his final video frame by frame. His sister stopped giving interviews, saying she couldn't bear hearing people romanticize his death as bravery. "It wasn't brave," she said quietly. "It was loneliness wearing a GoPro." A mural appeared downtown. Eli standing against the sunset, hand raised toward the sky. Beneath it, someone had spray-painted his old tagline, "No fear." Months later, someone else crossed it out and replaced it with "No tomorrow." For a while, fans gathered there to light candles and film tributes. They said the spot felt haunted, like his energy still lingered in the wind. But eventually the city painted over the mural, and the rooftop where he fell was fenced off. The world moved on, as it always does, scrolling past the tragedy, looking for the next thrill. But the internet doesn't forget. Every few months, the clip resurfaces, a blurred video, a fleeting sound, a reminder of how quickly life can turn into content. And every time it does, someone new asks in the comments, "Who was he?" No one answers with the truth. They just say, "He was No Fear Navarro, the guy who never stopped climbing." And maybe, in his mind, that's exactly what he's still doing. As the lights fade and the stories settle, one truth remains. Behind every viral smile, there's a shadow the camera never shows. These were the faces that turned fame into their own downfall. If this documentary made you think twice about what's real behind the screen, don't forget to let us know. Which story struck you the hardest? For more true stories that peel back the glitter and show the darkness beneath, subscribe to the channel and stay with us for the next deep dive into where trust ends and the crime begins.